The year is 1945. The war is over. Japanese women, conscripted into auxiliary units, suddenly found themselves prisoners of war. Their journey to America wasn't just a physical displacement. It was a brutal confrontation with reality, shattering every lie their nation had fed them. Imagine the profound shock. On August 20th, 1945, nearly 300 Japanese female POWs were transported from Guam to the American mainland. Among them were nurses, radio operators, and students. Women who had served in a war they were told Japan was winning. Their leaders had painted a picture of America as weak, lazy, and decadent, its people starving, its industry crumbling. But what they witnessed defied every ounce of propaganda. The first stark contrast hit them before they even reached American soil. The American guards on the transport ship were not the frail, stooped figures of Japanese cartoons. These men were tall, broad, and exuded a casual confidence. Their uniforms were clean, their boots polished, their bodies robust. A young nurse, who had survived the last brutal weeks of the Pacific Campaign, recalled her instructor's warning. American men were softened by capitalist indulgence. Yet the guard who offered her water had an arm steady as iron. This initial visual shattered a core belief. "Were we lied to all this time?" whispered a radio operator, her voice laced with disbelief. The voyage itself was a revelation. For 10 days, these women, accustomed to severe rationing and deprivation, were fed abundant meals. Cans of fruit, white bread, real coffee. Sugar, butter, meat portions larger than anything they had seen in years. Some ate timidly, suspicious of a trick. Others wept silently, overwhelmed by the sheer casual abundance that marked their enemy's daily life. They had been taught America was starving, crumbling. Instead, they saw a nation that discarded food their families back home would have fought for. The first cracks in their manufactured worldview deepened with every full plate. When the transport docked in San Francisco, the city itself became another hammer blow. Skyscrapers of steel and glass pierced the misty morning haze. Bridges arched across the bay, teeming with an endless bustle of trucks and automobiles. It was a western city unlike any distorted image they had been shown. To one of the women, it looked like the future itself. Their journey inland by train continued this assault on their understanding. Vast landscapes of rolling wheat fields, orchards heavy with fruit, herds of cattle grazing in seemingly infinite abundance. This panorama mocked every single claim of starving, crumbling America. A young medical student, conscripted just months prior, scribbled in her journal, "If this is the land of a dying race, then the world must be upside down. Even the children at the stations look stronger than our soldiers." Their destination was Camp McCoy in Wisconsin, one of several facilities for female prisoners. The camp itself was another shock. Clean, orderly wooden barracks. Kitchens smelling of fresh bread and soup. Showers offering hot water on demand, a luxury unknown even in most Japanese cities during the war. Guards spoke with brisk efficiency, sometimes even politeness, not cruelty. When asked how long they could stay under the hot spray, an American matron blinked in confusion. "Until you're clean, honey?" This casual display of comfort and decency was disorienting. Medical examinations further amplified the disparity. Doctors recorded weights and heights, figures that seemed unreal to the Japanese women. Average American women stood taller, weighed more, and bore stronger teeth and bones. A Red Cross nurse later wrote in her diary, "They look at our charts as though we are tricking them." Some cried when told they were malnourished by our standards. The disbelief is profound. It is as if their world has cracked open. In the evenings, the women would whisper about the American guards' faces, the cook tossing away leftover bread crusts, the endless supplies of soap and fabric. Every discarded cigarette, every casually repaired truck, every confident stride of the men in uniform struck them with the same thought. Everything they had been taught was a lie. Yet, disbelief was not immediate acceptance. Some prisoners clung to theories. The guards were specially selected giants, the food staged, the waste deliberate propaganda. But in the quiet Wisconsin nights, as distant trains rumbled and the smell of pine drifted in, a heavier question grew in each woman's heart. If our leaders lied to us about this, what else had they lied about? The arrival of American civilians delivering supplies deepened the shock. These were not soldiers, not specially chosen men. They were ordinary workers, drivers, carpenters, clerks. And they, too, were taller, stronger, and healthier than the officers Japan had paraded in propaganda films. One woman wrote, "If even their common men are like this, then what of their armies? What of their factories? Perhaps our war was never winnable." The emotional toll became immense. Women lay awake, whispering fears, grappling with the crumbling of their national identity. Anger began to shift, not at their captors, but at the Japanese leaders who had spun fairy tales of superiority and sent them into an unwinnable war. A pivotal moment arrived during a lecture on American wartime production. Through an interpreter, an officer spoke of the United States building over 96,000 aircraft in 1944 alone. A gasp filled the room. Japan's best year had yielded barely 28,000 planes. The gap was not merely wide, it was infinite. Then why did they send us to fight? A medical student whispered, dropping her pencil. The realization struck like grief. Their belief in national superiority, their armor against hunger and loss, shattered, leaving them exposed to the bitter cold of reality. Some women cried, others stared, their faces pale with rage. One evening, a nurse named Sachiko broke down, shouting in Japanese, "They betrayed us! They knew and they sent us anyway!" The barracks fell silent. No one argued, no one comforted. The truth had settled. The women were no longer just prisoners. They were witnesses. Witnesses to the collapse of illusion and to the fragile strength of truth. Months passed. The women changed. Some learned English, desperate to understand this new world. Others filled notebooks not just with numbers, but with reflections on morality and truth. One wrote, "Our defeat is not simply military. It is spiritual. We were children in a house of mirrors, shown only what our leaders wished us to see. Here in the land of the enemy, I finally see my own face. News from home, particularly reports of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, brought the final crushing blow. Photographs of flattened cities, survivors with keloid scars. The images cut deeper than any words. If their leaders had lied about America's weakness, about Japan's invincibility, about the war's purpose, then perhaps loyalty itself was a chain." One woman stood at the barracks window, the sunset staining the snowmelt red, and said, "They took everything from us. Our brothers, our homes, our pride. But here I see children running free, women treated with respect, food in every hand. If this is defeat, then what was our victory ever supposed to be?" Her words broke something open. Anger erupted, not at the Americans, but at Tokyo, at the system that demanded blind obedience. "I was not defeated by America," one wrote in her notebook. "I was defeated by the lies of my own country." When they finally departed for Japan, these women were different. They had arrived as enemies, lived as captives, and left as something else entirely. They were living evidence of a war built on illusions, carrying the heavy burden of a truth that forever altered their understanding of their homeland and themselves. The shock of American reality had not just broken their spirit, but forged a new, clearer vision.